What's up, Tyler? Keith?
Hello.
Plugged on, baby.
Yeah.
We're here, and we're going to talk about the new Haken album, Virus. A hell of a year to release an album called Virus.
I know. It's very topical. I assume unintentionally so, but
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. This is their sixth album. This is the follow-up to 2018's
Vector.
Vector. And this is kind of a continuation of Vector in a way. Like, these two albums kind of go together, apparently. And, yeah, I mean, if you don't know these guys, they're a progressive band. And, you know, we fell in love with this band when they released their epic masterpiece, The Mountain. And just been a fan ever since. I think this band's great. So,
Yeah.
what did you think, Virus?
I do thoroughly enjoy this album. I think this album has now double the difficulty because one, it has all Haken albums have to live up to The Mountain to some extent. You know what I mean? Because that's how stuff works. But then also I think Vector is another masterpiece of an album in my opinion. And I don't think this album is as good, but I think it does hit on a lot of the same notes. I mean, the first single, the opening track, "Prosthetic," is great. I love how the intro of that song just kind of comes in and whatnot. I think, and it's very much is a continuation of the heavier side of Haken. You know, which is one of the weird things, especially with like Vector, to some extent, was like being introduced to this band with The Mountain, and it's like, oh wow, they're actually like a heavy band. For the most part, The Mountains, at least maybe from their stuff going forward, is, you know, it's very much more melodic and whatnot. But there's all kinds of cool melodic moments on this album. I mean, I think to me, the best two for back to back on this album are Carousel and The Strain. I love the riffage and whatnot in Carousel, and I love I'm forgetting his name.
Ross Jennings.
I love his vocals in The Strain specifically. I just love, especially like the verses and whatnot of that song. And I do also, despite like it's been taking up a decent portion of the album, I love all five. I love the Messiah Complex, the low 5-part epic thing that they have towards the end of the album. I personally think the first two are my personal favorite ones. I like Ivory Tower and Glutton for Punishment. I think those two are really well. I mean, all of them are really well done, but I really like just sort of how they sort of flip flop a little bit, like in tone, and that's sort of like very much like something that Haken does very, very well, is being able to do like from their last album. Oh, what was the song from their last album? Veil. I think it was the song where it was like 10 minutes. It was like two songs smashed together, but then like this album does that a good bit too as well. And I just think it's, you know, this is maybe my shortcoming. Haken's a hard band to talk about because so much happens all the time in all of their songs, which is why I love it. But it's like, but all these things are happening, and it's just like, yeah, I think this album's a fucking journey. And it goes together so well. The first time listening to this album, I put it on while I was working in the kitchen, and then Spotify stopped, and I was like, oh wow, that was the whole thing. Like all the songs kind of they mesh really nicely together with sort of like the central theme, and I see what you mean now with like, because I hadn't heard that prior to this, that the album's a continuation of Vector, and I can very much see that on a lot of the stuff on this album. So yeah, I think it's just another great album by Haken.
Yeah. I mean, I like this album too, and I kind of agree with you. I'm not sure if I like it more than Vector. What I liked about Vector is, yes, it had the progressive nature of this band. It was a heavier side of them. I also just loved how it was just kind of to the point. Like, the album wasn't overly long or anything, and it just, every song jams. I listened to that album today for the first time in a long time, and listened to Vector and then went straight into Virus. And the two go together great, and Vector, I was like, man, I forgot how much I love this album. Like Veil, The Good Doctor, Puzzle Box. Like, there's just so many amazing songs. And then the last track, The Cell Divides, so good.
Yeah.
And I just think there's just times on this album where it just kind of loses me more than Vector, personally. It's not, and this album is a little bit more complicated, I think, than Vector. I think it's a little bit more complex for sure. And that's not why it loses me. It's just sometimes I just feel like the songwriting just isn't there. But Prosthetic, though, opening this album is, I love how fucking heavy that song is for this band. And I'm like, man, because this was the first single they released for this album. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe how heavy they're getting with this. And I think that is an amazing song. And then you get to Invasion, which I think has really catchy vocal hooks from Ross Jennings. And I think another track that really stands out to me in terms of his vocal performance, which is always fantastic. And I know, sometimes I always see comments all the time of like, I don't think the vocals fit this band, or the music that they're writing and the heaviness. And I personally don't agree with that. I feel like that's what makes them stand out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I just feel like this band doesn't work without him. You don't get The Mountain without Ross Jennings. You just don't.
No,
and
God no.
Yeah, and he's just an amazing vocalist. I love his unique sound for sure. And the track that stands out to me, I'm like, man, this guy's voice is just fucking beautiful. Is Canary Yellow?
Yeah,
that's a slower song, but that chorus just hits so well. It's so beautiful, and just so much like emotion packed into that I absolutely love that chorus. But yeah, Carousel I think is a solid song for sure, and then The Strain. But you get to the Messiah Complex, and I don't think it's bad at all. I just feel like this is where things just kind of lose me, mostly in the middle, because you have, Marigold's fine, but then you get to the Sect, and that is like the most progressive ass thing that Haken has written to me. That is like the progressive. We're gonna just kind of stop, and the guitar's we're gonna noodle a little bit on the guitar and all sorts of stuff. But I felt like there was kind of some throwbacks to like some older Haken stuff in that. Like I felt like one of the vocal passages, it's either for the Sect or the last one, Ectobius Rex, felt very much like Cockroach King to me. Just kind of stood out. I don't know. Maybe it was me, but it's interesting for sure. I feel like the whole Messiah Complex is definitely where the most progressive sort of writing comes in on this album, and definitely where I feel like the guitar work definitely stands out a lot more there, where they're just kind of all over the place guitar wise, which works. I mean, there's just a ton of talent in this band, and I just they're so interesting to me because you have, like, I like Definity, but to me that album is just more, it's straightforward and it's just kind of jams. And then you have Vector and Virus, which bring a much heavier side to this band, but a little bit more complex, maybe not as much as The Mountain, but it's still really good. And I'm curious where this band goes now. Do they keep this heavier side? Not that there wasn't like heavy moments on The Mountain or anything like that.
Oh yeah, there was plenty of them. It's just
there's nothing like Prosthetic on the Mountain or
no, God, no.
Fucking just Prosthetic is just so in your face, and I like it, and I just think there's a lot of beautiful moments, but yeah, I just don't know if I like it more than Vector.
I would agree.
But I also, about a week or two ago, just because I knew this album was coming out, and I'm like, man, I haven't listened to that in a long time. I did listen to The Mountain. Still a masterpiece. Still it just hit me so hard.
I listen to that album quite frequently. Like,
yeah, it's perfect, man. Were you gonna say something else?
I was gonna agree with you on the I think there are some bits because like of where the album also lost me. Like as well, I was just thinking about that. Yeah, that's also something that happened with me, which was basically my whole point was not that it lost me, but it was just kind of like the album can kind of like. So I think in spots, especially again towards the end of the album, is like good background noise, and that's not necessarily an insult.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's good, and it's so much is happening that it's easy to sort of like, if you're doing anything else, to be like, whoa, right, that's happening over there. Like, which I mean, if that's if that's your thing, that's cool. I agree. I like the more sort of boom. Let's just get to the point with like Vector, how that was. So, you know,
yeah. And I don't want it to also come off that we have no fucking attention span for any of this stuff either.
No, that's not what I'm saying either. It's just like,
yeah, it's just some of those sections on this album they just don't catch me like other times that Haken has just kind of went off and did their own thing, and you know,
yeah.
That's all.
Like on the reverse, like that, which is like the mountain holds my attention the whole way through.
Oh yeah.
And so does like just about, you know, a lot of their other stuff. Like I think like you said, for whatever reason, the songwriting just didn't pop as much in certain spots on this album.
Yeah, I think overall it is a solid release for sure. Finally glad it's out. I mean, this album got delayed many times.
It was originally supposed to come out in like March, April. Oh,
May, I think. Yeah, I could be wrong on that, but yeah, I thought it was May, and then it got pushed to June, the same day the new Lamb of God came out, and then it got pushed to July. But yeah, here we are. You can listen to. So, score?
I'll give it a 7.5. I think it's a solid album.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8. I think it is a good release for sure. Let us know what you think of Virus. Haken, thanks for watching. Smash that bell, that like button, that subscribe button. Just smash it. Smash your computer. Smash your monitor.
Smash everything.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Live a little. It's quarantine. Actually, well, you can't. It's quarantine. Never mind. Don't do any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. See ya.